The story began with the start of a new academic year, and the teacher asked the students to introduce themselves. A worst nightmare for an introvert like our main character, Maki Maehara. He was already overthinking the situation and hoped the class would lose interest by the time it was his turn, but fate wasn't so kind and he was called up first. Maehara explained that he had attended a middle school in the neighboring prefecture because his parents' jobs required them to move often. When the teacher inquired about his hobbies, he awkwardly mentioned that he spent his weekends alone playing video games and watching movies since his parents were rarely home. The teacher seemed curious about his choice of movies, but with an uncomfortable feeling, Maehara quickly mentioned that he enjoyed niche B movies, like those about sharks. With this, Maehara believed his position as the class loner was solidified. The next student stood up with confidence. Her name was Amami, and she had transferred from an all-girls school because she wanted a co-ed high school experience. She then casually pulled another girl into the spotlight, prompting her to introduce herself as well. The girl was Asanagi, her best friend from the same junior high school. Maehara observed these two girls and concluded they would be the center of attention in the class for the year. 6 months later, Amami was relieved that the school week was ending and eagerly sought Asanagi's praise for not falling asleep in class. Asanagi, however, pointed out that she had already dozed off earlier. The two girls' interactions were lighthearted and playful, and Maehara reflected on how they were often regarded as the cutest and second cutest girls in class. That Friday, Amami suggested hanging out, but Asanagi declined, saying she planned to watch a movie. When Amami tried to join Asanagi for the movie, Asanagi politely declined, saying she intended to watch it alone and promised to make it up to her another time. On the other hand, Maehara thought about his usual routine of movies and pizza. Though he didn't mind spending time alone, he yearned for companionship to share silly conversations. Suddenly, Asanagi herself appeared in front of him, playfully chiding him for not noticing her sooner. She asked if he liked movies, and then showed him the one she was planning to watch, a bizarre film about miniaturized piranha sharks. Maehara was surprised by her unusual taste, and began to feel a connection with her when she mentioned that it shared similarities with another quirky movie. Asanagi then confessed that half of what she had told Amami earlier was a lie. Her real goal was to find a way to talk to Maehara. She handed him her introduction card, which revealed that she shared his love for movies, games, and B-movies. She had been looking for a kindred spirit in the class, and finally asked Maehara if he would be her friend. Initially, he couldn't believe she wanted to be friends, suspecting she just wanted someone to talk to about their shared interests. He was fine with that, but insisted they keep their friendship a secret from others, worried about the potential gossip. Asanagi agreed, and they became secret friends. Their friendship developed a routine. Every Friday, Asanagi would come over to Maehara's place and they would spend time together. One particular Friday, they decided to enjoy their meal, drinking and chatting happily together. They settled into playing video games, with Maehara proposing a duel. Asanagi, determined to win, reminded him of how she lost all 10 matches last week, but she had done some training at home. As the game progressed, Asanagi accused Maehara of cheating when he grabbed an item she had her eyes on, but he dismissed her complaints with the old adage, all's fair in the battlefield. Maehara couldn't help but notice that despite her enthusiasm, Asanagi wasn't particularly skilled at the game, which made sense given her likely limited gaming time. As the evening grew late, Asanagi mentioned she should head home, and they began cleaning up. Maehara noticed how much Asanagi ate, more than he expected for a girl. His thoughts didn't go unnoticed as Asanagi caught him staring, teasingly calling him a pervert. He was just surprised she didn't gain weight despite her eating habits. She explained that her active lifestyle kept her fit and teased Maehara about needing to work out more. The lighthearted moment escalated into a playful tickling match, with Asanagi mercilessly exploiting his weak spots until he begged for mercy. As the weekend ended and a new week began, Maehara found himself reflecting on his friendship with Asanagi. In class, he overheard a conversation between Amami, a classmate, and another girl discussing a popular Friday drama. Maehara wondered if he was being a good friend to her. He worried that he might be too quiet or not engaging enough, especially since Asanagi was his first real friend who showed him how enjoyable it could be to spend time with someone else. However, he realized that trying to get along with a friend was not as simple as it seemed. Later, while walking back to class, Maehara witnessed an awkward encounter. A male student approached Asanagi and confessed his feelings to her. He senses the conversation is getting serious and is soon pushed into a group with 2 girls from his class, including Amami. The other girl seems unaware of Maehara's presence in their class, but Amami surprisingly recognizes him. The girls began observing the scene from a distance as Asanagi politely rejected the boy, with Maehara eventually getting caught up in the situation. Amami, who seemed to have a keen interest in these matters, mentioned to Maehara that Asanagi was quite popular and often received confessions. She even revealed that Asanagi had turned down 5 confessions herself that year, and complained that the same boy confessed to her not long ago. This interaction left Maehara feeling uneasy. Although he didn't know why Amami was telling him all this, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had somehow betrayed Asanagi by witnessing her private moment. Amami apologized for involving him in their situation, but favored him to keep the fact that they are eavesdropping on Asanagi a secret. She then asked for his phone to exchange contact information, further complicating Maehara's feelings as he added another secret to his growing list. That evening, Maehara returned home, still grappling with his thoughts. He realized that even though he and Asanagi shared common interests, she seemed like someone from a different world. As if sensing his turmoil, Asanagi poked him and asked if he wanted to hang out next Friday. Maehara agreed, but immediately questioned if going out was a good idea. Asanagi assured him that it would just be the 2 of them, and no one else needed to know. Maehara eventually confessed that he had seen her being confessed to by the older student earlier. He apologized, worried that he had intruded on something private. To his surprise, Asanagi wasn't upset. She shrugged it off, explaining that she heard some whispering during the confession but didn't mind. Maehara was glad he didn't mention that Amami had also been watching. As they continued talking, Maehara asked if Asanagi thought she was really that popular. She admitted that she might be, but not as much as Amami. When she playfully asked if he was jealous, Maehara deflected, saying that popularity seemed exhausting and that he preferred honesty in friendships. Asanagi appreciated his straightforwardness, admitting that it was one of the things she liked about him, platonically of course. They returned to their usual routine of playing games, with Asanagi displaying her improved skills. As the evening ended, she promised that they would have as much fun next week, leaving Maehara with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty about their next meeting. When Asanagi told her friends that she had something to take care of at home and wouldn't be going home with them, her friends noticed her cheerful demeanor and suspected her of having a boyfriend, which Asanagi denied. Later they met up. He worried about how they would explain their being together if they ran into anyone they knew. Asanagi casually suggested they be honest about their relationship, but then quickly played it off as a joke when she saw Maehara's startled reaction. During their day out, they had to navigate an awkward encounter with some girls from their school who speculated about Asanagi's supposed high standards for boys. To throw them off, Asanagi playfully pretended to be closer to Maehara than they were, even going so far as to feed him in a flirty manner to keep up the act. As the day ended, Asanagi excused herself to the bathroom, leaving Maehara rested alone on the bench. However, their day wasn't without complications. Amami, unaware of the depth of Asanagi and Maehara's friendship, appeared out of nowhere and greeted him. Her friends, curious about their connection, and Maehara's mind wandered to how awkward things could become if Asanagi returned. Meanwhile, Asanagi was deliberating over which lipstick to use when her phone buzzed. It was Maehara, but she was surprised as she picked up the phone to hear Amami's voice. Amami was bombarding Maehara with questions, and he was clearly uncomfortable when she invited him to join her group. He politely declined, feeling out of place in a lively group setting, and recognizing that he and Asanagi preferred more low-key hangouts. Later, this decision weighed on him, especially after Amami contacted Asanagi for possibly making him uncomfortable. Asanagi, who had been listening in on their conversation from a distance, comforted Maehara, assuring him that Amami wasn't upset and that it was okay to set boundaries. Their friendship was special because it allowed them to be themselves without the pressures that came with group dynamics. In the days that followed, Maehara still felt guilty for how he had handled the situation with Amami. But when they all met at school, it was clear that Amami held no grudges. She quickly apologized for any awkwardness, and Maehara apologized in return. Amami expressed that while she had wanted to apologize over the phone, she found it better to do so in person. Asanagi was surprised to learn that Amami had Maehara's phone number. However, this exchange did not go unnoticed by their classmates. The girls began to question them about her relationship with Maehara, while the boys stared daggers at him, clearly jealous. When the school day finally ended, Maehara decided to leave quickly, hoping to avoid more awkward encounters. but Amami was determined. She caught up with Maehara and dragged both him and Asanagi to a random bus she'd hopped on. Amami wanted to find a quiet place to talk, though Asanagi was puzzled about why she needed to be there. They eventually ended up at Maehara's house, where Asanagi pretended it was her first visit. As they settled in, Asanagi couldn't resist asking how Amami and Maehara exchanged numbers. The question put them both on edge, as Maehara wasn't sure if he should reveal the truth about them eavesdropping on Asanagi. Amami then confessed that they had been spying on Asanagi's interactions with a senior boy to make sure he wasn't doing anything suspicious. Maehara realized how much his request for Asanagi to keep their friendships in secret had weighed on her. Though he valued her actions, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had been selfish. As the conversation continued, Amami suddenly stood up and asked Maehara if he would be her friend. In the classroom, Maehara felt like an outsider as Amami grew closer to him, making him feel like he was losing his place among his peers. During lunch break, Maehara took Asanagi and Amami to his own special spot. He had surprised them by preparing his own bento, a mix of leftovers and vegetables. Asanagi felt a bit overwhelmed by his impressive cooking skills and the fact that he had tried his hand at making banana pancakes. Amami expressed admiration for Maehara's abilities and proposed visiting his house to make pancakes together. Asanagi inquired if Maehara was comfortable with the visit. With Amami's popularity, she was concerned about his well-being, to which he reassured her that it was fine. When they arrived at Maehara's house, Amami and Asanagi were impressed by his cooking. They spent time playing games and enjoying the pancakes Maehara made, which were praised for their taste and texture. Amami and Maehara surprisingly showed a chemistry, which made Asanagi feel like an outsider at the time. On their way home, Amami realized she had forgotten to ask Maehara something in return for his hospitality, so she planned to treat him to something. Asanagi was upset about being left out and decided not to accompany Amami next time. Just then, Amami called Maehara to ask if he was free on Friday, but she was informed that he already had plans. Asanagi noticed that she had left her phone at Maehara's house and rushed back to retrieve it. When she arrived, she pinched his nose with a flustered but cheerful expression. She promised to see him the next day, leaving Maehara puzzled about her sudden action.